how long has this incarnation been for you guys, this story? And break that down for us.
Wow. Well, we completed filming in 2019, right before the pandemic. So that was a challenge, I have to say, to finish during the pandemic. One of the examples would be somebody that was working really hard in post for us was off work. You would think that would be kind of nice, but his wife was a nurse. So these things really took us down a longer path. And so we finished the project right before Cannes 2021.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm curious, as far as, let's bring Andrea in this, and what made you guys decide to shoot this and do it the way you wanted to, and what did Andrea bring to the project? Because obviously her experience is so vast and it's massive. She's worked with some big projects. I'm curious, did that amplify this story as a whole, just having her as a presence there?
Yeah, well, Andrea, what happened was Andrea and Theresa worked on a project. They were doing a trailer for a book. And she said, you know what, I want to do something else. And Theresa was like, well, I got this, because one of the things, us as women filmmakers, independent filmmakers, we always want to spread our wings. And one of the things that she had been wanting to do was direct. And she immediately gravitated towards the story. And what was great about the story, it allowed her to use her vision, in storytelling, but also at the same time some of her other skills that she had been honing for so long. So when she thought about the special effects aspect and being able to transform that dilapidated park, and to have the use of that amazing set, in practical use, it was something that she immediately fell in love with, and a lot of work that she did early on in prep and planning and visualizing. So I felt like for her, with delving into directing, Honey and Clover was sort of like the right mix of all of that, all of those skills.
Andrea, you can see by this script that we like dark comedy. We like an element of farce and kind of over the top, but based in a real character that has real feelings and real struggles. Well, Andrea loves that too, but Andrea really loves magical realism. And she likes this element of kind of fantasy, and she really brought that. The dancers, the children appearing, Honey and Clover turning back into their childlike selves. And of course, she's, a VFX master, so she can do all of these. It's kind of in her wheelhouse to think that way. But I think Andrea really brought a lot of the magic. Do you have kind of?
When I wrote the story, I wrote the story based with Theresa and Jackie. It was a relationship story. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I brought that out about, it was kind of based off of childhood friends 25 years later. And the main thing was they were the class of two. They were child stars. So they're their only childhood friends. So 25 years later, they're still that's the only other person who really knows them. Yeah. But then what was great about it was Andrea, as a female director, really captured a lot of the stuff I didn't think about, and the way it translated into the way she shot it, it just made it better. It made the writing better, it made the story deeper, and Theresa and Jackie's performance was great. And as Andrea was shooting, I was thinking things like, I don't know, and I didn't think of it that way, but she had a vision for shooting, and she did certain shots, and when you saw it in the edit, you're like, that's way better. It was better. She had a plan and she executed it, and so it made us all look good.
You mentioned a dilapidated place, a location. Yeah. Can you all talk more about that location? That is such an integral part of this film? And how much fun was it to actually play in that world?
It has its own history.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it has its own folklore.
I originally wrote it like dream script. I wrote that scene to take place on the old Vegas Strip.
Okay, yeah.
And you know what I mean? And then like they were skating down and everybody started following like a Rocky scene, like on scooters and
Straight down,
like,
I can see it, yeah.
But then, you know, it's not possible. And then Theresa saw that shot. Wait, you can tell that.
Well, I saw that water park on an episode of Transparent.
Okay, yeah,
And Jay Duplass's character and his sister, they're on some road trip and they take a walk and they're like in the middle of nowhere. They happen upon this water park and it's ridiculous and it's awesome. So when we're trying to think of alternatives to Vegas, which is not great for low budget, you know, I'm like, where can you roller skate? Really, that was what I was thinking. Where can you roller skate where no one will bother you and have a whole bunch of people running? And sure enough, that water park is in Barstow, which for those of you that don't know out there, it's only 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours outside of LA.
On your way to Vegas.
Yeah, on your way to Vegas. You can pass it on your way to Vegas. And you can rent it. A person owns it. You rent it as a location. And it was really, it was a big step because we did have a big meeting and the DP and Diane and we said to each other, okay, should we just film this on the streets of Hollywood? We have the permits. We've already paid for the permits. We know our city really, really well. It's very cinematic. Hollywood's got, you know, one of the elements the water park has is, you know, these bright, shiny characters against a drab, used up, you know, dirty, burned out backdrop of, you know, their past.
Yeah.
So, and Hollywood has that, if you know, it really does. It has those neighborhoods. And our DP, Sherry Koch, she said, no way. You're doing essentially a chase scene. If you're going to do a car chase, you have it in a place. You know, you don't just kind of have it throughout the street. So she says, let's go to the water park, which means, you know, you're taking 45 people out of town, out of the 30-mile, you know, zone. Then what we call hotel hell, which Diana had completely handled, which is putting all these people up at hotels. Of course, that means raising more money. That means trailers because it's hot and cold and there's no bathroom. Yeah, I'll let you guys continue with the snake story. But when we got there, it was like, oh my God, we did it. We did it. We did it. We got to the water park. And every time that scene starts, I'm like, we didn't compromise, you know, and we just waited and we did raise that money and we did get those people in the hotel and you got those people in the hotel. But I'll let you rattlesnake.
Rattlesnake.
Oh yeah, I mean they were shooting it, so we get there, and first of all, when you drive up to the place, we saw pictures of it, but they're water slides like from the '80s, and they're gone, you know, like the actual slides. So all that's left is the metal frames that hold the slides up. So they look like a Buddhist temple in like Mad Max world. There's just everywhere up these mountains are like two metal rods with like a curved top, like the entrance to a temple. And so it looks like crazy, and you get all this feel, and they're all setting up, and I'm doing my thing. But the guy who greeted us goes, "You got it. Don't move anything. You know, it's we go. There's rattlesnakes, and the eggs have hatched, so there's baby rattlesnakes everywhere." And he goes, "And they'll come right at you." And so that was like my job is like, if there's a palm frond on the ground, don't touch it. Like, I don't care, like it's in the shot. If that piece of wood is there and it's been there, it's in the shot. Like, don't touch it. Like even sweeping, like so they could roller skate, there's like broken glass everywhere, and we swept, and they're like, skate around that piece of wood. No one's touching it, because you know if you get bit by a rattlesnake, you know, a mile,
200 miles out.
Yeah, you have to get, you know, air vac out. Yeah. And yeah, we were the only people there. There was a couple people who drove by on ATVs, and then the cops came, because what happens is people do like illegal raves there, or try and do like skate or graffiti art in this place. It's a mess. There's palm trees that have been lit on fire, so they thought, someone called and saw us in the costumes and all, like, there's a rave starting there.
It's people skating around.
Yeah.
Fighting with snakes. What's going on?
It's crazy. Yeah, it's a full moon festival.
the dancers, and then we're at the roller skates.
We looked like a rave that was about to start, and the cops came, and like Diana comes running out like with permits. I got permits, and then 20 minutes later, the cops are taking pictures with my wife in her outfit, and they were like, "Good luck," and we just went for it, and it was cool. And I mean, it paid off. There's some of those shots in there were awesome. The stunt coordinator, they made it work for their chase scene. It was great. And then when the sun sets over the desert and you get those shots at the end, and we all knew we were at the finish line, like we had done this. And the director's beam and Andrea was just like giddy, like we'd all realized we had done it, and it had taken a long time, and we took a big risk. And when you see, I really feel like when Theresa said this was the best day of my life, that scene, like she meant it. Like it was like can we pull this off? Can we do something like this? This is kind of swinging, with a bigger bat. And everybody just came together, and I don't know, it was a good day. I tell people like that was a good day to be a filmmaker. Yeah.
As far as this project unlocking further future projects, stories, because you guys have a comedic writing background, is there more to this story? Will we be able to see Honey and Clover in different incarnations? And how has y'all's writing been impacted by giving us these characters, these full-fledged characters?
Well, I think Diana said it best one day when she said, "This is, it's not a pilot. Mm-hmm. It's a film, but it's not intended as a pilot presentation or a proof of concept for a pilot. It's a roadmap for a series. So this is where a series could begin and end, and certainly could be a feature film as well. We're open to that. But we feel like these characters and their how their adventures unfold. There's a lot of value in series, for them.
Yeah, and I one of the things I love is the fact that with Jackie and Matt's writing and Theresa's writing is that there's so much that's still left uncovered with these characters and Max's character. It's like there have been ideas that have just been like pitched in regards to like Max, like that part of their lives. And then you also have the thing of the possibility of what to do with young Honey and Clover, as well. So there's a lot of room there, and I think the reason that there's a lot of room there is the way it was written, where it has air. There's levity, in all of the it's grounded, with what they're dealing with addictions and relationships and fear, and then coming to terms with aging out of a system that wants you young, and trying to hold on to that glory, because sometimes you do see those Hollywood stars that are kind of lost in a time period, right? They still dress the same, they still, but they're also, that's their brand, that's still how they're making their bread and butter, but there's still like a levity there with all of that for room to grow, expand, transition into whoever these women are now. They can either elevate or they can regress. It's like, that's the fun thing about it. It's like there's a lot of room, and it's also sometimes like hearing some of the stories and like pitch ideas that they have going back and forth, and I just start cracking up. It's just like one word or like one sentence, and I'm like cracking up because I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine that? Can you see that? And because the way Jackie, Theresa, and Matt write together, it's like you can't see it. And the other thing too, which is great, is that they each give each other space in the writing. And that's something that's great.
Yeah, it's fun because you have two things you can work on. We can pretend to have their shared history is like the episodes of the show when they were kids. And so we talk about those. Like, how about if we had an episode about, smoking weed? And then remember the episode about, becoming a woman? Like, we just start giggling like how they would handle that. Remembering shows in the 90s, how they handled these, like, is that person handicapped? The handicap episode, and so there's that, and then also the co-stars and the people that were involved, like, whatever happened to my, Nickelodeon's People's Choice Award, like if one of them stole it, or we had like the mom on the show, because I was remembering the mom from The Facts of Life, like what happened to her, or the guy who played like basically the Chachi role, whose life was ruined when their show got canceled, like he never got another job, and like I wrote this character who was would have been around the time of like the Karate Kid phenomenon, so he tried to get into martial arts, and if you ever watch Battle of the Network Stars, like in the early 90s, all the guys who were like the kids stars all started doing like steroids and trying to become the next Sylvester Stallone, and it's like it's comical. It's like Joni Loves Chachi and those guys and a couple of the other shows. Yeah, like all of a sudden you're seeing like this Battle of the Network Stars with like Lorenzo Lamas, and they'd all like, they were trying to reinvent themselves, and it just didn't work out. And we just crack up thinking like maybe you could deal with those characters from the show. Was it your first love, or you can deal with them now, and who liked who, or who's got a beef. So it's fun. The writing is, the characters are they have a lot of depth, and a lot of that's based off of remembering people from that era, and also knowing Theresa and Jackie, like taking their personalities and their histories from growing up and how it affected them and what they're dealing with now. And then we put it in like this comical, farcical, light, but it's still dealing with those same issues. Like, what was it like to be affected by shows that were on in 1990, and then what's it like to be in Hollywood today, So it's really fun. It's just a really juicy topic to write with,
What does it mean to have been accepted here at Bentonville, and knowing their mission, knowing what happened this week and their mission, with knowing there's so many women involved, no offense, Matt.
No, I was...
But like, this is an extremely strong women-led film about women. I'm curious, what does it mean to you to be at this festival?
It means a lot, and I'm not just saying that because one of the things that, you go to a lot of different festivals and then it's done, right? But this festival, they've kept with the relationship, they've kept with the relationship with me, the fact that a year later, I sent an email about something, and I got a response, and I got and then they were like, you know what, let's get on the phone and talk. That means a lot. So I have a lot of pride and hope in with that. And the other thing too is, like, as you're walking around the festival and you see so many people, right? So many different people. And, quite often you hear things about people that look like me, but you see people that don't look like you, like the fact that there's a strong film about Native Americans, like I saw the most beautiful film about a Korean family dealing with the loss of a child, Haitian, Indian, Pakistani, and then the other thing too is that a lot of the people that I met last year at the festival, we're still friends, we're still communicating. If I find out that their film is going to be at a festival near me or something, I go and see their film, even though I've seen it before, but I know how it feels to have people there supporting you, enjoying your work. So, and that is something where inclusion is not just a word on a poster. And, and sometimes... I
love it because it says include right behind you. I was like, it's the best thing I've heard. But that kind of, yeah.
But I mean, but it isn't, And then it's also the fact of like how they treat you. You know who the festival staff is like, and they're smiling at you and welcoming you and talking to you, and they're making sure that you're hydrated. All of those little things that create humanity that you kind of take for granted. And I feel privileged and happy that I also get to share this with my nearest and dearest.
It is more than just like a slogan with the inclusion or diversity. The films here, what you get, are really personal character-driven stories, and you can tell. And it's not like, well, we're diverse. We put someone there who's Asian, and there's an African American here. These are like stories that you get to see that are, that are the shared humanity, but from a point of view or perspective you don't normally get to see, or people haven't had the opportunity to share. And you come to this festival, and like you'll watch a block of short films, and everybody is completely engaged because they're character driven, and they're also situations that you don't see in like stereotypical or just easy spots in shows or movies. You know what she was saying about why it was Waimea, the movie?
Georgia.
No, the one
Why
about
Lie?
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a story that would have been totally different if not handled by a director who was writing about a personal experience, and then also had crew members and people with him that backed him up and said like, no, that's how it goes down, and not doing it in like a judgmental or anything like that. It was just like a real story, and it was dealt with just such, I don't know, just like just like a humanity or a realism that wasn't like a theme. It was just like a reality that was told through those eyes that was just beautiful. And it happens over and over and over again. You just see people getting the opportunity to tell their story, and they do it in a personal way, and it just reminds you, like, that's what good storytelling is: personal, character driven.
And the fact that we're talking actually about two different films.
Oh yeah, like
that was the one Asian film throughout the entire festival.
You're right.
But the fact that the one that impacted me was a different film, and
the films that are selected here are done because they're excellent and they're diverse and they're given an opportunity to be shown. Women behind the camera, whatever the case may be. It's just such a strong selection of films that are put together, and the thing that I take away from it is, man, you got to be, if you want to be a good storyteller, you have to have characters that are real and grounded, and the more people you meet, the more interesting your life is, the better your storytelling is. And you watch a couple blocks of movies here and you're like, oh my God, there's so many stories to be told, and I want to hear them all. I don't want to see just these stories. I want to be shocked and surprised all the time, and this is a festival that really allows that to happen. It's amazing. It really is. It's great to walk out and go into like a filmmaker's mixer, and you just want to stop everyone and say, great job. Like, great. You're not avoiding anybody. You're beelining towards people, like, great job. It's like you're proud to be a part of it, and you're happy for them, and you're happy for yourself for being here. It's really a good feeling. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, it's a dream of mine to be accepted to Bentonville. And this is our first year. Diana's an alum. So I was really thrilled and quite frankly shocked. It's not easy, to be accepted to this festival. And what I love is a festival that feels like a family. And this is truly a community. So all of us that have come out to Bentonville have spent our days and nights together. It's not, these are the screenings, or these are the screenings in the panels. It's like, hey, let's have fun doing Gina and Friends. Hey, we're inviting the entire community. The kids that live in this city are going to have, free movies at the park. And, you really do leave here a film family, and we really do keep in touch with these people. But I'll say this, yesterday I woke up and I looked at the news, and I went, no, this is my festival bubble. This is my dream, and we are having fun. I don't want to think about this. I don't see how I can post about this anymore on Instagram and show people what we're doing because we're having a fun time. But we went to the luncheon, and we went to a block of very powerful films. And you've both touched on a couple of those films, and one was Jamil's film Bonds, and then the Korean film Georgia. And I remembered that filmmaking is activism, and it's our way to speak, and it's a way to reach a lot of people. And like Matt said, these are personal stories, but it's our responsibility to tell stories that matter, whether they're funny or they're very dramatic. They affect people in such ways, and you can say so much, but it's a form of activism, and what we do is important. Yeah.
Thank you. And
you.
thank you for the time, and thank you for what you've just said. I think it's a part of why this festival is successful, is because it's filmmakers who care. Yeah, it was a pleasure.